We spoke to David West, Senior System Designer, and Dennis Schwartz, Lead Designer, about the new content in Patch 1.
So the thing that is the most exciting for us is the sniper scopes. This is the big new feature we have. So we have 3 scopes total. It's like a short, a medium, and a long scope. And people can find a new way of playing the game that wasn't there before, which is kind of like the precision marksman. We also even have the whole sniper scope separately. So people who just want to just get the range advantage, just seeing something in the distance, they can just equip that as a tool rather than bringing a sniper weapon. In addition to that, we have 2 new grenades we're adding to the game. A flash bomb, which gives you a fighting chance of actually going through a door where you know there's a guy with a shotgun waiting on the other side. So you can kind of stun him as you rush in and try to take him out. As well as the poison bomb that creates like a bit of a cloud of poison, similar to when the spider attacks you. So you can use that to funnel the enemy through the areas you want him to be and kill him down there.
To go with the new scopes and bombs, we've also got some new traits, 7 of which support the scopes directly, and then 4 others that support other mechanics within the game.
In addition, what we added was hunter variations, so basically additional skin updates, model updates to the hunters. So as you recruit new hunters, you might see a couple of new faces like pop up here and there.
And we've also got some updates to the level coming out with this patch. We've tried to reorganize some of the compounds to make camping less of an issue. Try and give players a few more tactical options on how they can enter, how they can leave compounds, which we hope will improve the gameplay experience.
The one thing that won't be the focus of this patch is additional performance and stabilization improvements. This is obviously an ongoing effort for us, so there will be more patches improving the game across the board. It's different people working on that. So at the moment we're going to see all the cool new content that people have been working on, but it doesn't really affect our performance roadmap. So we're introducing sniping to the game. I mean, obviously, with the game so far, there has been a lot of sniping going on, but it has so far just been iron sights. So we've added like proper scopes now for the game.
We need to balance these weapons inside Hunt, and we don't want them to be the obvious choice for all players.
Yeah.
We've done that in a number of ways. First off, in the shoulder aim, we've made the spread much higher than the non-scoped variants, which should mean that at a close range, you have a disadvantage if you take a scoped weapon. At long range, the scope is better than the normal iron sight version, but we've also added quite a high dirt layer to the lens, which means you still need to be fairly good and skilled with the scope to be able to make it work.
There's also like problems, for example, up close, like situational awareness, peripheral view is being impeded. So we have like the short scope, which we call the dead eye scope. Those give you a bit more peripheral view, so they're a bit more like mid-range combat optics, while the medium and the long scope, they are like the true sniper scopes, and they obviously like impair your sight a lot more as you kind of like focus on a very small thing in the distance. So there might be someone sneaking up to you with those scopes very easily.
And we've added a high price tag to all of these scoped weapons. So you can get a really good advantage with them, but it's a big risk that you could lose it and could end up having to buy a much lower value hunter when you die. So one change we actually already have in the game, but which becomes even more important now with the scopes, is that if you just hold the fire button after a shot, you kind of prevent your weapon from cycling. So you kind of keep it stable, so you can kind of see if you confirm the kill or if he's still running around. A second change we did, which affects all of the bolt action rifles, is that we kind of zoom out between shots as you work the bolt. So before, right now in the game, you kind of did that between shots and you kind of stayed on target with the zoom of the iron sights. Now every time you're going to fire, you're going to go out, do it, and then go back in. You can choose traits to kind of give you that old playstyle back. Well, if you do not specialize, then you have to take into account that you're going to be unzoomed a little bit between shots. We are very much aware of this topic. We've been reading what everyone's saying on Reddit, Discord, our own forums. The first thing to say, though, is that camping is a valid strategy in Hunt. We don't want it to be the dominant strategy. Yeah. We want it to be something that some players can choose to do, but it doesn't mean that they will instantly win. One of the biggest things that we have to do when it comes to camping is not punish players for it, but actually like provide incentives, give them something to gain if they are the ones committing. So we've already done something in the previous patch where we kind of like introduced a bit of kill bounty for the boss. So even if you get killed after you've killed the boss, you still get something for sure you take out of the mission. Having similar new changes to the game mode is what our focus is. One big step that we've taken is that
If you start the banishing process now, you actually earn a new health chunk. So this is basically one of the only ways, besides investing in hunter points, upgrade points, to kind of like restock on health permanently, right? So that's going to be a very big point. We also have a new clean sweep mechanic. If you are the one who goes into the boss and kills him, banishes him, and brings at least one token out, you get an additional bonus after the mission.
We've also done a pass on our footstep audio. In the current live build, the crouching footstep audio is very loud, which was not what was intended. We want the players to be able to move around in the crouch stance and be able to move without being heard within 3 or 4 meters. So if you're inside a building, you can actually move, whereas right now, that's not really the case.
Yeah.
So it gives players that are being careful much more opportunity to move slowly through an environment and avoid other players.
You can more easily see now what you actually achieved, what the next unlocks are coming up. So it gives you a lot more information on the same screen now than it did before. And specifically also gives you information about that last match you played. It shows you how many players you've killed. Just gives you a bit more concise overview of what you actually did, what's coming up, the latest stuff you have, and therefore if you want to use it or not. Players would get a recruit presented for them to buy, which had like possibly a machete and then a weapon with a bayonet, like a bit of a more so nonsensical combination. You wouldn't really equip a hunter like that. So we've added a bit more sense into the system. So there's basically some tag keywords we have linked to specific equipment, so the system can choose more meaningful combinations. In addition to that, we kind of normalized the health a little bit. So all of the hunters are now starting with 150 hit points, which is the total maximum we have. So if you lose health, for example, if you get downed in a mission or you lose it from fire damage, you know, you spend your upgrade points to kind of like replenish it, get it back. But from the get-go, whether it's a tier 1 hunter or tier 3 hunter, they all start with the same big health chunks.
We've also added a new player mechanic, which is full damage. This is something we've always wanted. It just unfortunately didn't quite make the first release of the game. So this greatly changes the way that you traverse the world. You have to be much more careful, actually use ladders and go down them rather than just jumping off 2-story buildings. The other change we've done to player movement is that jumping now consumes stamina.
Yeah.
We have seen that the bunny hopping issue in the game right now. We want to remove that. This is our first change to work on that.
One thing we also did, again, playstyle, is we added a trait for the falling damage, so that if you really want to just be a bit more the parkour-y type of person, just moving around, jumping, running, gunning, there's a trait that supports that. One of the biggest problems we identified was the disparity between a new player and a veteran player. And giving like the new players a fighting chance in the game has been one of the biggest important steps. So we looked a little bit what the problems are, and one of the things we did was actually boost up the compact bullets a little bit, so that you don't need to like pepper at a veteran player like for 3, 4, 5 times before he actually is downed, giving you a bit of a fighting chance there.
We've also added some new rewards for killing higher tier hunters. This is sort of to try and help the newer players when they do manage to take down a tier 3 guy, that they get a really good reward for doing so. We've also nerfed slightly the silenced pistol.
Yes.
The silenced pistol has a very specific place in our game. However, the ability to headshot any of the AI from a large distance with it was not what was intended. So it still has its specific place as a much more stealthy, silent weapon, but at a lower distance.
So we've also done a couple of changes to existing content. So for example, we had the pump jockey trait, which was specifically just for the pump action shotgun. Now this is a mechanic that we see also on the Dolch pistol and on the Mosin gun rifles. If you don't run and dry and you reload kind of mid-clip, there's always a chance that as you open up the one round that is chambered, the actual live round is just lost. Now with this mechanic, you can grab it, kind of put it back inside. If you want to reload mid-clip in order to top it up quickly because you don't know what's around the corner, it gives you a chance to like do that without having to lose the rounds.
We've made a couple of changes to the Nitro Express. The ammo packs that you now find in the world will now give you more ammunition. The Nitro is a very powerful weapon. We don't want to give it too much ammunition to make it dominant, but we were also seeing that players weren't picking it because once they'd fired their initial amount of ammunition, they were very rarely being able to actually restock. So we've increased the ammo pack from 1 to 2 for each resupply. We have 3 new traits. One of them reduces the amount of damage you take from explosions. One of them allows you to be revived with a full chunk. And one of them increases the recovery rate from fire damage. And we've also made a change to the Bloodless trait. Currently, that gives you full immunity from bleeding damage. We felt that was a little overpowered compared to some of the other traits. So we've changed that to now give you half the bleeding damage instead of full immunity. We've seen that a dominant strategy has been sort of emerging, which is players taking the Quartermaster trait with a rifle, generally a Mosin Nagant, and a shotgun. This isn't something we want. We want there to be much more of a variety of weapon choices throughout the game.
So a big change to inventory system is that where before we had like a large and a small slot, we now introduced a middle category, a medium slot. And we can rebalance all of the weapons across those 3 different slots so that the actual true rifles, like long barrel and the buttstock, are actually in the large category. We have the sawn-off weapons, like the hand cannons, and if you have like the pistol with the stocks added to them, they're in the medium category. And then we have the true pistols as well as the melee weapons in the small category. The Quartermaster trait has also been changed quite a bit. So we no longer allow you to have 2 large weapons, but instead what it does, it automatically upgrades your small to a medium. So you can still bring, for example, next to your Aftermath, a sawn-off shotgun, but you cannot bring the full shotgun. You cannot bring an automatic shotgun. So it's much more about choices and play style. And obviously, if you play with a partner, like the 2 kits, yours and your partners, they're kind of complementing each other very nicely.
We've made some changes to the bosses. We've noticed a number of exploits over the past few weeks, which we've tried to eliminate. The most obvious one of those was on the Butcher, where it would get stuck in a hit reaction if you hit it at the correct interval. Which would make it really easy to kill. We've also made some changes to the Hellhounds. They now have a more erratic movement pattern, so they won't just run directly at you, allowing for fairly easy shots directly at them. And we've also increased their resistance to headshots.
The meathead actually has a stronger activation radius, so it will kind of sense prey much closer, so you expect that guy to be a bit more of a challenge now.
We've also introduced a concept of clue defenders. So now some more of our clues will basically have AI spawned around them. So it's not so easy to basically go into the level, get a few clues and just escape. We still want players to have a meaningful experience every match. Even if they're just going to get a few clues to get some money, we still want that to be an interesting experience for players.
So besides all of these additional features we roll out with this content patch, we actually also have lots of bug fixes to go along with it. So these are very much like small issues here and there, like sometimes you would see corpses kind of like lying, resting on the ground at odd angles, sticking into the air. These have been fixed. We have like the animal attractor, so our dogs, chicken, ravens, sometimes sounding as if they were a bit too far away, even though you trigger them right next to you. So like giving you a smoother experience across the board.
We've also fixed a couple of issues with the AI. There was a couple of hit reaction issues where they wouldn't play correctly. And we've also fixed a number of issues with our health effects, like the burning and the bleeding, where you potentially might get stuck in a burning state and not be able to stop it. So there's various fixes along those lines that have gone in as well, along with all the new content.
All right, so as you can see, lots of changes that went through this patch, not only features, but also bug fixes. Make sure you hit up like the forums, give us some feedback, go through the full changelog, just see what's actually there and tell us what you think. This is very, very important for us because only that way we can make this game the best game it can be.
So thanks for watching, guys, and hopefully we'll see you in the game soon.
Achieved with CryEngine.